All right, it is possible to do a YouTube live stream. So let's talk about the moon, according to Phaladeepika. Here is the Sanskrit for it. Thanks, everybody, for who stuck around. Thank you very much. I had a bit of a login ordeal. Okay, you ready? Matu swasti manaprasad. Matu swasti manaprasadam udati snanam sitam charanam. Why do I not remember this melody? Hang on. Matu swasti manaprasadam udati snanam sitam chamaram. Chatram suvyajanam phalani mridulam pushpani sasyam krushim kirtim mautika kangsyaropya mathura kshiradi vastrambujo yoshaptim sukabhojanam tanusukam rupam vadechandrata. So he gives a very nice poetic meter for the moon. This is probably the more elaborate. I think this is the most elaborate meter. And this is what he's saying. He says basically the essence of what the moon represents is mother, matu. That's the first word. It doesn't have to be the first word, but coincidentally it's the first word. Then basically that's the difference between the moon and the sun. Last week we did the sun. The sun and the moon are the big players. When you look in the sky, if you live in a crappy enough area, you might not even see the stars or the planets. If you live like in some weird town in China that's full of like factories or some horrible part of Calcutta, you won't even really see the stars. I hear that they cleaned up Calcutta a lot. But you will see the sun and the moon. Because those are the two biggest lights in the sky. So they symbolize the two most significant forces. I mean, they signify the most significant force, two sides of it. The sun is the one that's bright and hot and sharp and in your face and in the day. Where the moon is the one that's kind of cooling. Moonlight isn't hot. And it's the one that's kind of sleepy or soothing. And it's the nighttime light. So, there you have it. So, you have the sun is the daytime king, and the moon is the nighttime king. So, one of the two, the sun, which is daytime, maybe is like the prototype masculinity, and the moon, which is the nighttime, is the prototype femininity. So the prototype feminine is mother, the prototype masculine is father. Sun is father, moon is mother. Then the author, let me make sure since today's a rec. Okay. Then the author also uses this other word, yoshapti. Yoshapti, which means very qualified women, very good women, or exemplary women, or womanhood, exemplary womanhood. That's what the moon represents. Mother, the ideal woman, a good woman. Yoshapti also means fertility. So that's the moon. The moon is the female archetype. The sun is the male archetype. And the rest of everything, female archetype, by the way, is got fertility. Okay. The rest of the stuff, almost everything else that the moon represents is going to be because of the fact that it represents the archetypical feminine. Alrighty? So, for example, he says, Mridula. Mridu. Mridu means gentleness, affection, sweetness. Yesterday I went to my son's high school graduation. 5 hours. 5 hours of it. You know, you can't really deny it. Or whether you go to the high school graduation or whether you go to the, what do they call it? Induction ceremony in elementary school. You can't really deny it. That the boys like to be rough and tough and the girls like to be nice. And this is one, what the moon signifies is mridulam, which means niceness, sweetness, gentleness, affection, caring, softness. So the sun was the opposite. The sun was the tikshna, it was the sharpness, the hardness, the toughness. Moon is the softness. So, Ritark wants to know, isn't the male and female archetype Venus and Mars sort of, there'll be duplicates. But with Venus and Mars, you get more like, Venus is like estrogen and Mars is like testosterone, like pure raw. And the difference also is that the sun and the moon are royal, but Venus and Mars are youthful. So there is a difference. Mars, if you want to understand someone's femininity, you have to look at Venus and the moon. If you want to understand someone's masculinity, you have to look at Mars and the sun. But there's a difference between the planet Mars and the planet Sun. A slight difference is that Mars is immature masculinity. It tends to be very unproductive, Mars. That's why it's a malefic planet, the most malefic planet. Venus is immature femininity, which doesn't mean it's malefic at all, but it's overly benefic. It's exceedingly benefic. It just gives and gives and gives and gives. So, Moon and Sun, the character of their femininity is a bit wiser or older than Mars and Venus. So it's Mridula and then it's also Madhura. Mridula and Madhura. Madhura is loveliness, or you could say sweetness or romanticness. The moon signifies a person's sense of sweetness. Mridula and Madhura. Mridula is how sweet and gentle they are with people. Madhura means how sweet they taste, how much they appreciate sweetness, how lovely they are, how into lovely things they are. Madhura. And then also Sasyam, right? Mridulam pushpani sasyam. Sasyam. Sasyam is good behavior, manners. Again, you just go to any school, elementary through university, and just check out the difference in the manners between the males and the females. So females' nature is sasya. They're oriented towards group behavior. So their oriented or natural instinct is to behave in a way that other people are okay with. Whereas male behavior is inherently geared towards solo or independent behavior. So they're not geared in a way to care that much about whether or not their actions are pleasant to others. So the moon in the chart shows the person's kind of manners, mismanners, or a manner slob, rough manners, Moon in the 6th house, maybe. Rough manners. Or moon in a hard sign. Moon in a gentle sign, nice manners. So, Matu Yoshapti, the ideal sense of femininity, that's what the moon represents. Then he starts to talk about the personality traits of ideal femininity, which is Mridula, Madhura, and Sasya. Really niceness, sweetness, lovingness, gentleness, manners, concern for other people. Now he's going to, so that's the emotional feminine qualities, and now he's going to say that the moon represents physical feminine qualities. So he uses these 4 words: Rupa, Sita, Kirti, and Vastra. Rupa means beauty. Or just, okay, so beauty, it means beauty. So the moon is femininity. Women are beautiful. They have the more beautiful shape, more beautiful skin, etc. It doesn't mean that men aren't attractive to women, but it's the reason why men are attracted to women isn't because of their beauty. It's because of the stability, reliability, strength, independence, etc. Confidence, those kind of male qualities make them attractive, not beauty. Beauty isn't the only thing which is attractive. There are 6 things which are attractive according to the Vedas. Beauty is one of the 6. Money is also attractive according to the Vedas. Fame is also attractive. Intelligence is also attractive. Strength, physical strength is also attractive. And dispassion or detachment is also attractive. So, moon is beauty. This is why every time you open up a Sanskrit book, and I would imagine any book, like if it's in Greek or whatever, on classical astrology, and you look at what the moon is, how do you interpret the moon in sign X, it always tells you, amongst other things, something about the way the person looks. This is something that is a little bit counterintuitive because the moon is the mind and the inner being. So what does it have to do with how you look? The moon is very feminine, so it has to do with how you look. Do I have slow mode on and it's still this much chat? Thank you, Barda. Okay, so there you go. So a lot of beauty. Like I know, you have Venus in the 1st house, wow. You have Mercury in the 1st house, wow. It's beautiful. How's the Venus doing? Wow. But don't overlook this. Is super important to know if a person will grow up beautiful or something. Should they become a model, etc. Moon. Moon. What sign is it in? What nakshatra is it in? What house? All right, that's Rupa. And then there's Sita. Sita is a type of beauty that's especially for the color. And fine, so it's all about complexion. Sita is about complexion. You have a very fine complexion, then you're Sitam. So just the sense of having brightness, having glow, there isn't shadow or pockmark, anything like that in your skin. That's from the moon. By the way, there's a very beautiful poem in which Rupa Goswami says, though the moon has craters, nobody thinks that she's ugly. Similarly, though a great person might have a rough edge, nobody dislikes the great person. It's a nice little poem. I make you practice listening a little bit better. Okay? So Rupa, so far, he said moon is Matu and Yoshapti. It's the ideal feminine archetype. Mother and all sorts of ideal versions of woman. So for example, the personality traits of the ideal woman is sweet, gentle, lovable, loving, sasya, which very good behavior. And then physically speaking, rupam, beautiful, sitam, nice complexion. Kirti. Kirti is another variation on this whole rupa sita thing. Kirti means how you shine, your luster. Now I know that there are people on the same website that we're on right now who want to say that the moon represents fame. And if they've done their homework in the background of it, or if they try to dig into some justification for it, they'll find this word here, kirti. Because kirti means your celebrity, how people celebrate you. But I'm telling you right now that the moon does not represent your fame in the actual sense of the word fame. Look back to the previous session that we did about the sun. The sun is your fame. How much people see you. Because the sun is the daytime planet. Want to know why? Everybody, all the misogynists always say, there's no famous women in history because women are not, significant. The reason why there's no famous women in history is because women are not extroversive nor individualistic. So they don't establish themselves as a unique person. Whereas men are like, that's their like modus operandi. They want to be known as the one who discovered blah, blah, blah. So this Kirti, the moon is the archetypical feminine. It is not really what gives you fame and notoriety as an individual. However, it will give you something called Kirti, which means people will like you, people will talk about you. So it's not that it's not associated with fame. This is a component of fame, but the moon is not a centrally important planet. Or just be careful about how you understand the moon. Just because the moon does have an effect on the fame doesn't mean that it's in any way a public planet or in any way an outgoing or assertive planet or a demonstrative planet. It's the nighttime planet, it's the cooling planet, it's the motherly planet, it's the feminine planet, it's the inward planet. It has this thing called Kirti, but to be frank with you, the actual meaning of the word Kirti here means the shine of your skin. Because it's with Rupa and Sita and Vastra. And it's talking about the physical properties of femininity. And of course, it has other implications to the word Kirti, which means how much of a celebrity you are. So it doesn't mean fame in the sense of like dominance. It's a female kind of fame. A fame where people like you. Females may not be... There's no famous women in history, but when a woman walks down the street, everybody turns around and looks at her. That's Kirti. Right? So there's a female kind of fame, which is attractiveness. You attract attention. That's Kirti. And another interesting thing about the word Kirti is reputation. It implies a sense of fame in the sense of reputation, having a good reputation. How important is that to women? It's super, super important. This is a very feminine thing that we're talking about right now. Now you have your finger on the pulse. Whenever you understand a word in any language, you got to make sure that you're understanding the word in the context in which it's being spoken. Here, the author is talking about the moon as Matu, the mother archetype. So Kirti and the mother archetype. Make sure you go with the meanings of the word Kirti that have to do with reputation, attractiveness, that kind of thing. I feel like I want to just do this shloka. It's not a shloka, but I want to do this verse about the moon. Then I'll take a look at all this stuff. And Samurai, if you're still there, just like put a note on some of the things that you think are really good questions in the chat that I should answer. And then maybe somehow I'll ask you. All right. So to finish up this group, the moon represents feminine, the ideal feminine thing. It represents therefore feminine personality traits. It also represents physical feminine traits, which is beauty, complexion, attractiveness, which is Kirti, and then Vastra, which is fashion, style. Literally, Vastra means the way you dress. So a person's sense of fashion, their style, their sense of like, yo, that's plaid. And the other thing is polka dots, bro. Right? That is not a moon in a like a Mercury or a Venus sign. That's going to do something like that. That's like moon in Aries with something. I don't know. Okay, so like a good moon has a good sense of fashion, a good sense of, and when a good sense for what clothes are good or not. Then maybe actually otherwise it'll be too much, so I'll just take a break here. Is there a difference between the ascendant looks and the moon's looks? Not really. But the ascendant is more directly indicative of how you look. The moon is really going to talk about the beautiful aspects of the person. So for example, what are the classical beautiful things? Big eyes, wet eyes, big eyelashes, wet lips, big lips, thick hair, shiny hair, all those things. Complexion, shine, those key elements of beauty all come from the kapha element, the kapha Ayurvedic element, which is basically the water in the body, which is the moon. Water, femininity. You'll see how that comes out soon. So the ascendant, actually, so there is quite a difference. The ascendant is really going to say the person is this tall, the person is this kind of physical condition, blah, 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 blah. The moon is going to say, do they have beautiful eyes? Do they have beautiful complexion? The moon will specifically talk about the beauty aspect of the appearance. Slow mode is on because you guys just talk too much. And you ask too many questions, there's no way I can keep up with it. And then I think you're not even listening because you're just typing away. So slow mode means you can post once per minute, which is more than enough. What does debilitated moon mean? Go to Google, type in Victicara, moon in Scorpio. Watch the video that comes up. Good. Christopher Burns, moon versus ascendant is like Ross versus Bob. No. How does the phase of the moon affect a chart or the house it's in, full moon opposed to new moon? Each phase has a different character to it. There's 15 phases waxing and the same 15 waning. That's a little off topic though. How do we write Kirti? K-E-E-R-T-I or K long I R-T-I. All right, now I'll go back to this. Thank you, Samurai. That's good how you're doing that. Now, he also now so. If I asked you at the beginning, what does the moon represent in astrology? I know it's the first comment on here was like, it's the mother. So that's true, but what about this other thing? I think most people would think, what does the moon represent in astrology? Most people would think your mind. I mean, I hope you would say that, right? Even if you asked me, before I said mother, I would say mind. So where's that all? How come he hasn't said anything about that? Well, he will. He's going to say that. Now he's going to get into that. Okay, so he also has a term in here called swasti and mana prasada. These are very near the beginning, right? Matu, swasti, mana prasadam. Actually, I kind of like the way he arranged it. He kind of gives like a table of contents in the first sequence of words, and then he expands upon them. Matu, swasti, mana prasadam, mudati snanam sitam chamaram. Chatram suvajinam palani mridulam pushpani sasyam krisham kirtim mautika kamsya rupa madhura kshiradi vastram bujo yo shaptim sukabhojanam tanusukam rupam vadechandrata. So you got these words swasti and mana prasad. Mana is your mind. Swasti is your overall wellness. Goodness. And prasada means like satisfaction or peace. So the moon has to do with your wellness of mind, your happiness, your peace of mind, the condition of your mind. Then he says he's going to specifically talk about various components of it. He says he used the word tanu suk. He used the word suk also by itself. So he's got... Where has he got it? Yeah. Yoshaptim suk bhojanam tanusukam rupam. So he's got sukam and tanusukam and manas prasadam. So he's kind of got three different kinds of sukha. Sukha is happiness. He says the moon represents happiness, period. Because what is happiness? Happiness is the primary element, the primary sensation experienced by the mind. What happiness is to the mind, what color is, or the color white actually is to the eye. Happiness is to the mind what the color white is to the eye. It's the basic thing that the mind experiences. And then the other emotions are derivatives or lacks of it. Like black is a lack of white. So unhappiness or dukh is a lack of sukh or happiness. So because the moon is the mind, it represents your happiness, your wellness, your peacefulness. Tanusuk also. Tanusuk means the happiness of your body, which means your physical health. But does the moon represent the mind? Or, well, it's like the moon represents the mind, but the mind is the foundation for the body. So whatever affects the mind is going to affect your body. So because the moon represents the mind, it has a big effect on the body. That's why it affects these things that we perceive as beauty. Because it really affects the conduits between the mind and the body, the eyes, the expressive things. Eyebrows, actually, a lot with the moon. Things which are expressive. Tanusuk is the physical health. And tanubhojanam, physical enjoyment. So all kinds of happiness. The moon is about all kinds of happiness. Mental happiness, physical happiness, all kinds of happiness, because it's about happiness. Why is it about happiness? Because it's about the mind. And happiness is to the mind what white is to the eye. Any question? Just a second. I think I just understood something. Okay. Any questions? Let's see. Moon does represent Chitta. Neuroman says Westerners like to separate mind and intellectual capacity from emotions. It's not weird at all. That's Sankhya philosophy. The moon is the emotions and Mercury is the mind. And they're a different part. They're different functions of your inner self. I find it difficult to distinguish the difference between the roles of the sun and the moon in motive and action. I don't know what you mean. The sun is really the motivator. The moon is the experiencer. What is the mental effect of a lunar eclipse? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to explain to you right now. In a short, because it's so dependent on what sign it's in, what planets are conjunct with it, etc., 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 what house is it in. But basically, you're going to have the moon conjoined with either Rahu or Ketu in order to have a lunar eclipse. It's going to be a full moon with Rahu or Ketu. So it means you're going to have the sun with Rahu or Ketu and the moon Rahu Ketu. So your basic implication of a moon with an eclipse is an unusual person. Bardo, how can mind mean happiness if it's a veil that covers our true nature? Happiness is the feeling that you get when you satisfy a desire. It's not ananda, it's sukh. The true nature is the thing which produces ananda, which is not happiness or the satisfaction of a desire. It's inherent bliss. The mind is the thing which experiences happiness, which is what we feel when you accomplish something that you wanted to accomplish. Rabi, how does the moon influence the mind differently compared to Mercury? Mercury influences your intellectual functions. How do you recognize things? How do you comprehend things? How do you translate things? How do you make sense out of things and express things? It is Mercury. Mind is how you feel about things, how your emotions work, and how you feel. So also how sweet you are, how you feel for things and how you feel about things is the moon. If Ketu is conjoined to the moon, does that mean you're cut off from the happiness of the body and mind? Not necessarily. I'm not going to read a chart for you. It's very dangerous stuff. To dabble and jumping to conclusions about things. Why is this? It's stream broke again. So I was gonna anyway. Too many questions. I really think you guys have too many questions that aren't on the subject. There's a gold mine. Somebody's mined it. They've extracted the gold from the ore. They put it all in a basket. And they're handing it to you. And you're looking for another store. Or you're asking about stuff. Just take the gold. Focus on the gold. Ask questions about the gold. You're asking questions about how to apply the knowledge before you even understand the knowledge. You didn't even finish hearing what the moon represents, but you're asking questions about how to interpret the moon in various conditions. See how your minds are so agitated by Rajagun? You can't even sit in one spot for 15 minutes to listen. Listen. Sattva guna, just sit, listen, absorb the information. I get pissed off because I deal with the same thing with myself. I mean, I know what it feels like. I get pissed off because this is the thing that gets in the way of people getting knowledge that becomes useful to them, rather than just chasing information around. Like the way dogs chase their tails or squirrels chase birds. Stop chasing information around and just sit still and receive information deeply and ask questions relative directly to the information that's being given. Matu swasti manaprasadam udadhi. We didn't talk about this word yet. Snanam, sitam chamaram, chatram suvajanam palani mridulam pushpani sasyam krishim. Kirtim mautika kansya ropya madura kshiradi vastram bujo yoshaptim sukabhojanam tanusukam rupam vedech chandrataha. So he now is going to say that one aspect of with this word yoshapti, which was, he started off with this concept that the moon is the archetypical feminine and it represents everything feminine, matu. And he says, and yoshapti, the ideal woman. Then he says, so that means their personality traits, which is loving, sweet, caring, and well-behaved. Their physical traits, which is beautiful, smooth, fair, attractive, and stylish. And then the state of mind of females, which is reflective or contemplative about feelings. And we're feelings, and the moon represents your feelings and your sense of mental peace and your sense of happiness. And that produces physical pleasure as well. So the moon is all your enjoyment. Now he's going to go say, now, don't forget, women are fertile. They make babies. And so the moon represents fertility. And so he's going to say this has to do, the primary fertility you're talking about is the way the earth produces stuff. This is why the moon likes earth signs. And Venus's earth sign is really good for the moon. Because the fertility of the earth and the fertility of the moon together. So the moon represents Krishi, which means agriculture, produce, producing things, growing things. My son actually graduated from No-Gyo school. No-Gyo means agriculture, Krishi. And they have a very cool kanji, Chinese letter for it. Agriculture is the moon. If a person has a pleasant moon, they like to touch plants, touch dirt, put seeds in the dirt, pull weeds. They like it, they love it. If a person has a moon that's not juicy, dried out, or burnt out by fiery things, they don't want it. They don't like agriculture. They don't like the bugs and the dirt and stuff like that. And it will affect the sexuality as well. They don't like that kind of stuff so much. But when they have a juicy moon, they like the dirt. So the moon represents Krishi, which is agriculture. And then he gives a bunch of words related to this. Sasyam, Palani, and Pushpani. Sasya is crops, Palani is fruits, and Pushpa is flowers. So the moon represents all these kind of things that grow and blossom. Then another important thing that he says is ambuj, or ambu, which is water. The moon represents water. Water is the archetypical feminine element. If you look at alchemy science for the 4 elements, it'll tell you everything you need to know. The upward arrow is fire, the downward arrow is water. Upward arrow is male, downward arrow is female. And then the other 2 elements, earth and water, earth and air, are the same. Air is also an upward, just like fire, and earth is also a downward, just like earth, except they have a middle line on them, so that they're moderately male and female. So the moon is the archetypical female, then it's going to represent that element, which is water. The sun is the archetypical male, it's fire. The moon is water, ambuj. So it signifies water in the body. So it's all the fluidity in the body, the fluids in the body. This is also why it affects your complexion, your moisture, your hair, your eyes. And then it's udadi. Udadi is a word for the thing that holds things. So it's basically a word for the ocean or seas or wherever the water collects is signified by the moon. Even if you have a bowl full of water, that's the signification of the moon. So if you want to have more moon influence in your life, put some vessels of water around your house and keep them clean. Or just visit the ocean, visit the seas, even the river. River is kind of like a young female. And then going in the water is also represented by the moon. So it's called snana. Snana means going in the water. So swimming or bathing is a moon activity. Water itself is a moon activity. The pool or the ocean or the sea is a moon type of thing. Make sense? It's coming from femininity. Femininity is fertile. Water is the essence of fertility. Water is required for life. They think there might be life on Mars, or there could be because there's water there. Or the such and such moon has water underneath the surface. Maybe there's life there. And water is fertility. So it's females, fertility, water equals oceans, etc. Oceans equals swimming, etc. Then he also said, well, it's female. Female means introspective. It means mind. Mind means happiness. Happiness means pleasure. So he says the moon also symbolizes things which bring pleasure. And he said it's Sita, which is fairness or whiteness. The moon is very white. The sun is very yellow. So it represents white things. So he's going to give a couple of examples of like luxury items and white things. So he says chamara, chatra, and suvajanam. Whisks. Whisks are like for the kings would have people, or rich people would have servants moving whisks around to keep the mosquitoes and the flies away. So a whisk is a very luxury item. A chatra is a luxury item. It's an umbrella, but more like a parasol. And then there's suvajanam, which is fans, fancy fans. Suvajanam, nice fans. So that's your thing. The moon represents your sukha and your manaprasada and your tanubhojana, which is your happiness and your pleasure and your comfort. So all kinds of comfortable items. In today's world, pillows, beds, comfortable things. And then white things. Things that are very white or silvery are the moon. So he mentions silver white precious things. He says ropya, mauktika, and kangsya. Ropya is silver. Silver is actually considered more beautiful than gold, if you look at the words. Maybe. I mean, maybe I'm biased. I like silver more than gold. Gold is called suvarna, which means it has a nice color. But silver is called ropya, which means it's beauty. It's beautiful and fine. And pearls are called mauktika. It's very similar to the word mukti. Moon is pearly. So again, this is like ways, if you want more to feel the moon more, have more moon influence in your life, have silver jewelry instead of gold, have pearls instead of diamonds or whatever. And in fact, he gives the word kansya, which is any white alloy like a pewter, queen's metal, zinc alloys, and all those things that produce white jewelry and white fancy metals. Any kind of white fancy metal is moony. He doesn't mention it, but also just like the Caucasianness or the whiteness in the person is also a moony thing. And finally, he says there's a particular food that's very white. It's milk. So he also says anything made from milk is signified by the moon, Kshiradi. All right, now is when, if I was you, I would start asking questions. But I think I'm a little bit out of time. I'm just going to review this Sanskrit again because it's so cool. Matu swasti manaprasadam udadi. Any of the words make sense now that we went over them? Matu, swasti, goodness, auspiciousness. Manaprasadam, peace of mind. Matu swasti manaprasadam udadi, ocean. Snanam, bath. Sitam chamaram. Sitam is fair complexion, fairness in the appearance. Chamara, fanciness, fancy stuff, luxury items. Chatram, suvajanam, 2 more luxury items. Palani, fruits. Mridulam, sweetness in your personality. Pushpani, flowers. Sasyam, good behavior. Krishim, agriculture. How come it's not in the right order? Because he's making a poem out of it so that you can memorize it. Matu swasti manaprasadam udadhi snanam sitam chamaram. It's in that meter. Chatram suvajanam palani mridulam pushpani sasyam krishim. Then the third line, kirtim, not your fame, but your attractiveness. How much attention you attract out of your beauty, or your celebrity, or feminine type of fame, is kirti. By the way, this is the basis for the word kirtan. Muktika, pearls. Kansya, silver metals. Ropya, silver itself. Madhura, romanticness, sweetness, sweetheartiness, lovingness. Kshiradi, things that are made from milk. I feel like that talk show. Things that are made from milk. Bing! What was that talk show? What is things that are made from milk? Kirtim Mauktika Kansya Ropya Mathura Kshiradi Vastra, fashion. Ambuja, water. Yoshaptim, the ideal feminine symbol, the feminine archetype. Sukha, happiness. Bhojanam, pleasure, enjoyment, physical pleasure. Tanusukam, physical health. Rupam, appearance, beauty. Vadech Chandrata, this is what you can say from the moon, Chandra. All right. Any last words? Yeah, that's nice, Catherine. So some ways we can understand the moon can be found in thinking symbolically about the ways water. If you just think deeply about feminine archetype, you'll understand everything the moon signifies. And then if you think deeply about feminine archetype, not in the concept too much of Venus-y trying to be attractive, but more feminine archetype in the sense of feeling oriented, then you'll understand the moon. So the moon is your whole ability to feel and experience life. Tres leches. That's some kind of a Mexican sandesh or something, right? Or is it like a pudding? Nobody offended me. I just get annoyed when I think people are missing the point, but I'm not offended. Moon in 6th house. This guy. So no manners. My manners are rough. I apologize in advance, and then you feel like I'm offended, but I'm not. Milk is white. That's why, and liquid. So also, by the way, he didn't say it here. He's going to say more stuff later. Just so you know, also one thing, since you're talking about milk, milk, by the way, is from a mother, isn't it? Rice. If you want to get moon, if you want to be beautiful and be moony and stuff, rice is your thing. You need rice. Don't need anything else. Just eat rice. And all your beauty products, rice-based. Rice. Whereas rice is the moon's grain. If you want more fire or heat in your body, etc., then go with wheat. Because wheat is the sun's grain. But if you need more kapha and you need, thicker eyelashes or whatever, it's rice. So that's my beauty tip for everybody. Rice, rice, rice. And that's the new thing. Right? Is soak rice water, pour rice water all over your hair and everything. Well, yeah. That's right, because rice is the moon. Rice is the white grain, isn't it? And rice grows with a lot of tons of water. All right, guys. How is white pearl related to the moon? Like I said, the moon symbolizes luxury items and white things, so I wouldn't, and water. So of course it's going to symbolize a pearl. Pearls come from the water. They even come from a clam. They come from the water. They're white and they're a luxury item. I mean, how much more moony can you get? So, bam. So if you want to feel more moon, you may not want to feel more moon. You might be overly moony already. But if you want to feel more connected with the moon, get pearls around. It's simple. Zena, don't worry about that. I'm sorry. All right, guys. I like how Bardo's putting a hand up. Oh, wait, what is that? Is that something from YouTube? Do people with moons that are close in Rashi or Nakshatras tend to group? Yeah, but it might also be opposites or trines. It's just basic formula for relationship is oppositions, trines. Even sextiles are good. Squares, not so great. Oppositions are good, but spicy, difficult. Good, but dramatic. Trines are good, period. Just good. And sextiles are good, but kind of a little bit wishy-washy good. All right, friends. I think I'm going to call it a day. Thanks all. And I'll see you in 2 days. I'll see you in 2 days. Thank you, everybody.